Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready. Mike and Janelle Friedrich here with another Marriage Ignite podcast where we talk about all things marriage, family, and faith. And we just want to thank you again for joining us. We're glad you're here. And I want to ask one small favor. If you're finding value in these podcasts, just give us a quick rating so that it helps others see that we're trying our best to help marriages thrive and survive. And number two, consider sharing this with someone that you love and care about. You know, they may be in a difficult spot in their marriage, and this may really, really encourage them. So thank you so much for that. So,
Well, and real quick,
yeah.
because we were just laughing really hard before we got on here because we have to do several takes sometimes to even get ready for this. And so it's super funny. And that's why sometimes you'll see us laughing when we come on because you never know. And we love to laugh. If you're not laughing in your marriage and in your life, you're really, really struggling. We want to help bring joy back into your life. We want to help bring laughter. We want to help bring connection and communication. And so we're so excited that you're here with us today.
Yes, let's dive in. We started this podcast episode 35 minutes ago, and so we're getting started. Okay, no, we didn't start that long ago, but we're going to talk about marriage today. Surprise, surprise. But specifically, marriages, y'all, they don't just happen. Healthy marriages don't just happen. They're built day by day, choice by choice. And it's not just about what you do, it's also about what you refuse to do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 2 to 3 powerful habits that healthy marriages refuse to do in order to protect their intimacy, to protect their communication, and also to protect their connection. And so depending on how much time we have, we're going to try to get through 3. We may push this out to another future episode, but we have more that we want to share. But we're going to start with the first 2 right now, which is number 1. The first thing that healthy marriages do is they refuse to surround themselves with other healthy marriages.
Unhealthy marriages.
Unhealthy marriages.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I want to preface this because some of you might be thinking, well, if we're Christians, aren't we called to be the salt and light of the world? And so that may mean that you're called to speak life into another couple that needs some life being spoken into, if you know what I mean. So we're not saying that you never should talk to marriages that are struggling. I mean, that's what we do. But God has called us into that market, okay, or that ministry. Let me say it that way. And so with that being said, okay,
Let's stop there for a minute. This is really good because we weren't planning on talking about this, but let's stop there for a minute because we are supposed to talk to, we're supposed to share Jesus with everybody, right?
Correct.
We're supposed to raise up disciples and love everybody. And that's not what we're talking about here because that is what we're supposed to do. But what's that saying about the top 5 people that you hang out with?
You'll be the average of the top 5 people you hang around with.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So the same thing with the top 5 couples that you hang out with is who you're going to become. The top 5 people that you hang out with is who you're going to become. So it isn't that we don't want you to hang out with people that are non-Christians and no, we do all the time and we're pouring into people all the time. But really, if you want to have a healthy marriage, you want healthy friendships. You want healthy couples that you're hanging out with. Yeah,
well, and I think it requires some wisdom to know where you are at in your season of your marriage. And this is a huge part of our story. But again, I mean, we say this to our kids all the time. We say, pay attention to who you're hanging around with because you take a look at your friends, guess what? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Right? We say that to our kids all the time, but yet when we're adults, that same thing certainly applies to us as adults. And so what I want to do is I want to ask a couple questions here, and I want you to think about this for a moment. And I want you to think about the couples that you and your spouse spend the most time with. Now, are these couples that you spend the most time with, are they fueling your faith in marriage or are they draining it? And the second question I want to ask you is, do their words and their habits pull you closer to God, or do they normalize dysfunction? And it doesn't mean they're bad people. Hear me out. More than likely, it says they just don't know any better. And you know, we've been very, very intentional about stopping any gossip. when we're hanging around with people. And we've been like this for a while, but we're very aware of it. And you guys, most couples, they're not even aware that they're gossiping. It's just like sometimes a normal conversation. We want to get caught up and like, oh, how's that couple doing? And then all of a sudden you start talking about this other couple. And all of a sudden 20 minutes in, you're like talking about something and you're like, you know what? That other couple we're talking about probably wouldn't want us talking about them. Like, these are the little things that I want that we, all of us, if we want a healthy marriage, we've got to pay attention to. There's a scripture that I love, 1 Corinthians 15:33, that says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And when we started our journey, Janelle, you can jump in here, but we've shared this on previous episodes about, my struggle with alcohol. And I was a social drinker and I was the fun drunk. And so I could justify it for a long time. Like, hey, I wasn't out abusing anybody. I wasn't out drinking and driving, so it was very easy for me to continue, just keep drinking because I was a fun drunk. But yet anytime I would drink, I would be surrounded by other people that were drinking. And so when we made the decision I made the decision, obviously for me, first of all. You made that decision a long time before I did. But when I came to my senses and I knew that I needed to drop the anchor and stop drinking, the first thing that I thought of was like, okay, what do I do now when I'm around people? How do you have fun? Like, what do you do? It was so foreign to me because it was so normal for me. And this is, again, what we were talking about just a minute ago, normalizing dysfunction. We were so in dysfunction. It was just so normal for us. I didn't know any different. And so I realized very quickly that I needed to make some changes within who I was spending my time with. And this doesn't happen overnight, so this is something that has to happen, brick by brick by brick. And so I don't know, because again, if you're a wife listening to this, or even a husband, and this may also include family members. Okay. Like you may have some toxic family members and you're like, well, we're not saying you need to completely cut off people in your life. Some people you're going to need to do that with. So some people you may not be able to do that with. Family members, that's going to require you to be a little bit more strategic on how you do this. But this is about setting up healthy boundaries. I know some of the things that I knew that I had to stop doing for a season, we had to stop doing was, we stopped going to weddings. We stopped going to...
If we did go to a wedding, we'd go for like the first hour and then we would leave.
Yeah.
But like we didn't go to birthday parties because we knew what was going to happen there. We just didn't put ourselves in situations where you would get triggered because of the alcohol, or that it would just cause a spiral or a fight between us or something like that. We really had to protect. But I want to do this real quick, babe, as I want to go back because I started making the decisions in my life first of me changing, me quitting alcohol, me realizing the friends that I was hanging out with. It kind of started stirring inside of me first, right? And you guys have heard us talk about this on past episodes if you've listened, and our story. And again, Mike just said this, that it was a very slow process of making little tiny shifts in our life that then began a huge shift in our life. So it was little tiny things that I began to do first. And I remember going, wow, okay, every person we're hanging out with drinks, every couple that we hang out with drinks. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to quit drinking first and I'll be the driver. And so it started with that, right? And then it started with, hey, you know what? Let's not go to that birthday party tonight. How about we go out to a movie? You and I. How about you and I just go out to dinner? And so I started to come up with other ideas without Mike even knowing on how to do other things. Or, hey, how about we go away for a night, just me and you? And, and so I started to come up with these other ideas to kind of start slowly shifting who we were hanging out with without Mike even knowing.
Right.
And then I was like, hey, I'm going to go to church. Do you want to go with me? And he was like, well, yeah. And he would want to go to church with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So there were these slow things that we began to do.
Very good.
That were so important. And then when you made the decision to quit drinking and you gave your life to Jesus,
Yep.
It was like, okay, now how do we navigate this together?
Yep.
So it was, and so you might be listening, whether you're a husband or wife, and thinking through this and going, okay, my husband's totally not on board right now. What do I do?
Yep.
Okay, so let me give you a couple things that I want you to do for that wife that you're like, my husband is like, we have no friends, or there might be some friends that he has or that you have that aren't good, vice versa, whatever it might be, whatever your story might be. So one thing I want to give you a tip. I mean, prayer. You need to get on your knees more. And I talk about this so much, and I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to hammer it in to get on your knees and pray. Pray, pray, pray. Pray for, listen, God loves it when we are honest with him and when we bring things to him and bring very specific prayers to him. And so pray for God to bring in godly friends into your husband's life.
Yes.
God-fearing friends. We've talked about this before, but we're going to really talk about this today. And same thing, pray for God-fearing friends, godly friends to come into your life, couples to come into your life, and really begin to pray. This one is really big, and he will. Doors will, and say, God, open up doors for us to go through that are of you. Close any doors that are not of you. Right? So we're really, really praying about specific prayers. Now, we had a client years ago that she was really struggling with this. And I said, well, you got to get back into church, because there's some of you that are listening right now where you're not even going to church. You know, you need to be. So find a church, get back into church. And so she did. She got back into church and she started going, and she would ask her husband and he would say no. Some weekends he would say yes. Hallelujah. If he said yes, like if it's one time a month, hallelujah. Just, again, it's always a no unless you ask. Don't push, don't pressure, don't get mad, don't sigh and walk away. Don't do that kind of stuff. Just ask. If not, you go to church, you take your kids to church, go to church. Anyway, he started going with her more often. And then there was a couple's kind of like, it wasn't necessarily like a marriage one. It was kind of a marriage one, but not really. Anyone could go at their church. And she asked if he wanted to be a part of it. And hey, you might like some of the guys in there. Why don't we go a couple times? And he said yes. And she's like, what? Right? She just kind of said it nonchalant. Hey, I don't know if you'll like it. You might like some of the guys in there. Why don't we go together? And he started going to this. They started going weekly. And he liked some of the men. The men were like real, what she said something about, like they were like real dudes.
Imagine that.
And he liked them. He liked the guys. Well, now again, this was a slow process. And then all of a sudden she said, hey, do you want to host a marriage group in our home? And he's like, yeah. He said, yes. And I remember just getting the message from her. She just was freaking out. She was so excited. And I'm saying all this because it could be a slow progression, and we don't even allow God to move. We just want it fixed now. We want it now. We are a woman who's like, come on, let's go. Let's just work through this. Let's just fix this. And we want it fixed overnight. And that is that's not the process most of the time.
You said something really important a minute ago. You said, when you invite, you were using the example of she would invite or you would invite. And if he says no, how are you going to respond? In that moment, connection is going to be broken.
Intimacy's broken.
And if you're like, look annoyed, disgust, disappointed, all of that.
Go up and give him a kiss and love on him and say, I love you. Okay, I'll see you in a couple hours.
This is so critical. Y'all, wives, it's usually the wives, not always. So again, nothing's black and white here. Usually it's the wife. But in that moment, wives, I'm going to encourage you, prepare yourself ahead of time for him to say no. Because you don't know what God is doing in the spiritual realm. You are planting a seed. You just keep planting the seed. Let God do the growing, okay? You're going to plant a seed. Someone else is going to water. God's going to bring the increase. Don't force this, because the more that you show disgust, contempt, or disappointment, he's going to be like, see, I'm being judged. See, yep, I don't want any part of that. That's what I'm going to experience. If I go to church, I'm going to get more of that. And I don't want that pressure.
Wow.
And that's, guys naturally are going to run away from that. So such a good point. I'm so glad that you said that.
Well, and I want to talk about.
And how many stories have we heard? That was so many stories.
There's so many.
Even Dave and Lindsay, who we work with. That was Dave and Lindsay's story.
Yeah.
I mean, their story is hilarious. We're going to bring them on. You got to hear that.
Yeah,
That was
because he
their
would
story.
drop her off. He
And
would
he-
drop her off at church and then go to McDonald's.
Yeah, until finally one day he would like step in and he would listen from the auditorium or the back, and like pretty soon he's like, oh, I kind of like this guy, this pastor. He's kind of like I like his sermons.
So I want to go here for a second too with what if you actually asked your husband, say your husband doesn't want to go to church and you want to go, just say, hey, do you mind if we go and look for one together and whichever one you like?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. How powerful would that be if you actually said that? Why don't we go together and look at a couple places, visit a couple places, and pick one that you like? Now, let's say that you are going to a church and then you find a new one and your husband likes that one better. Okay? And go to the one that your husband likes. Right? Because, or wife, this could go both ways, but we see this happen a lot where we dig us as wives, we dig our heels in. We want to go to a certain church, which I understand. But if you can get your husband in church, it doesn't matter like what church it is.
Just get him into a church.
Get him into church. So if you guys go church hunting, you don't like that church necessarily, but he does, go to that church. Get him in church. Get his heart softened. Enjoy it. Just be there. Be so glad that you are actually in church together.
Sure.
I have a client that I'm working with right now.
Yep.
Where they're going through this. She likes this one church. Well, he likes this other church. And I said, well, go to the church that he likes. Okay. For now, because God can do so much and change, but you want to get him in community. You want to get him into a church.
Okay. So let's tie a bow on this one.
Yes.
Is that good marriages run in groups? Get around other healthy marriages. Church is like the first place. Easy one. That's like low hanging fruit. Find a church that, you can both agree. You're not both going to maybe both think a 10 out of 10. That's not the point. Find something that you guys can both agree on and let God do the stirring in his heart. And again, one church may be the right church for you for a season until you grow. Like there's no one perfect church. I'm sorry. I know some of you might have a church. You're like, I got the perfect church. Okay, but I don't care. Like that may be the perfect church for you right now, but some other person will be like, yeah, I like that church. Doesn't matter. Like church, just get in church. All right.
Well, and again, you do want to find, let me say this, you do want to find your church family.
Correct.
You
want to get some roots dialed in eventually.
Yes, and you do want to find a church family, like we're planted in a church family that we love. So you do but often we get so into all of this like crazy stuff and we miss the point of you two getting to church together and getting your kids in church. So we want you to find a church that you love. But what Mike's saying is that there's no church that's perfect. Number one, people are people. A church is a hospital. Okay. And people go to get healed at a church and you're going to find messy. It's messy. It's really messy. But get into a church where you can plant and make roots and have a church family that can walk through with you in seasons, hard seasons, good seasons, all seasons. Okay. So hear us on that. But we talk to a lot of women that they just give up. And they're like, oh, we'll just watch church online. Or they just give up instead of looking at their husband and going, hey, let's find one together. And let's go to one that you just love that would work for you. I am open to anything. Imagine if we did that. And we ruin it a lot of times because we don't even do that. We don't even actually go, wow, what is it that you want? And that's how I was. I was so controlling that I never even asked what you wanted or how you felt. Or what do you think? And one of the most powerful questions to ask your husband or to ask even your wife is, what do you think? And so, but I want to talk about conferences real quick because I have another gal that we're working with right now where I'm working with just her and we're not working with her husband yet. And she was like, my husband wants to go to this conference, Life Surge. And I'm like, yes.
Go.
Yes, go. So go to, if there's a conference, often with, you know how many people we talk to that have never been to a marriage conference? Ever. And it's because they didn't even ask. It's always a no unless you ask. It's always a no unless you ask. And so if you see a marriage conference coming up, or just even a leadership conference, or some sort of conference that you guys could be getting poured into as a couple, go. And don't be afraid to ask your husband if he wants to go. That's why I started going to women's conferences first. And you weren't really on board with going to there was a couple of conferences that they did as a couple, and you were like not ready yet, and that's okay. I just loved you. I loved you through it, but I kept going to the women's conferences because I knew that if I got poured into and we're one flesh, whatever happens to me is what's gonna happen to you. And so I knew that there was gonna be transformation. If there was transformation happening in me, there was going to be transformation that was happening in you.
You were doing some Holy Spirit ninja moves on me. You give me the Holy Spirit headlock and I didn't even know it. All right, so number 2, let's dive into the second one, which is healthy couples refuse to neglect their emotional intimacy. Wow, what does that mean? So let me ask a couple questions. This one's good. When was the last time you really shared what was going on in your heart without fear of being judged? The second question I want to ask is, are you creating a safe space for your spouse to be vulnerable too? Or do they feel like they're going to be fixed by you if they open up? Like
Wow.
you've always got a suggestion. If they open up, you're going to try to like counsel them.
Ooh.
And so being vulnerable, that feels risky, right? But without it, so here's the caveat to that. Without vulnerability, intimacy is impossible. And so everything now stays surface level. And so again, this was a little bit of we had to work through this for sure. We're speaking through experience here, y'all. So just to know that we can't teach on anything that we haven't walked through ourselves. So this one is a big one because I remember sometimes if I would open up, man, you were going to have some great suggestion for me and you were going to tell me how to fix it. I'm like, I don't want to be fixed. That's why I walk through the aisle at Home Depot. I don't want to ask for directions. I don't want help trying to find something. I'm going to look for that 3/8 inch screwed nut by myself, even if it's on aisle 32 in the back left corner. It's going to take me an hour to find it, but I'm going to find that stinking screw. I don't want help. Like, don't tell me where it is. Okay. All right. So let's go back to those questions here, because this is really key, because this is probably one of the number one desires of every wife that we speak with, which is they want to have emotional intimacy with their husband. And we see this when we do look at the intake forms, like when we start working with a client, we'll ask them all these different layers of intimacy. And one of them is, what is your emotional intimacy like? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like there is no emotional intimacy, with 10 being it's amazing. Usually it's a 0 or a 1 when we first start working with a wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and again, this is another one where it can take time, and really allowing little small things done daily will lead to success. Little negative things done daily will lead to failure. So we want to have little tiny positive things that you're doing daily that will lead you to success. And so I realized with Mike that when he would come home from work, and when he did talk about work or how his day went, I always tried to fix him. I always tried to give my opinion or a solution to his issues instead of just listening. It was really hard for me. And this is where James 1:19 comes in. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
You were just trying to be my little helper.
I just wanted to help. And this is, we want to do this.
Yeah.
As a lot of women are this way, and sometimes the roles are reversed, but most often we just want our husbands to talk, and we just want to be there for them, and we want to be a solution. And we do this often with our kids, and we begin to destroy relationships with our kids, or we begin to think for them instead of really asking our kids really great questions and really listening to how they're feeling and what they're having issues with or having problems with at school, stuff like that. And so we do this often. And I really had to retrain my brain to just be with you.
Yeah.
I had to really work hard on just listening and going, wow, babe, I would say this to you when I first started doing this. I'd go, tell me more. Or how did that affect you today?
Yeah.
I would start to just ask real simple questions. And then if it got too overwhelming for you, because I'd feel it, or it kind of felt a little tense maybe, or a little off, we would stop. Because I didn't want it to turn into a fight. I didn't want it to turn into why are you asking me all these questions? Stuff like that. I just really found that when I was with you and I would allow you to talk, that there would be more talking and more talking. And then I noticed about you too, and this is with most men, is that when I would ask a question, let him think. Men go down into their vault. They have a vault because they think usually in one focus. They think in one box, one focus. And yes, they have a nothing box. They really do have a nothing box.
And it's our favorite place to go every single time.
They really do.
That's why we like to fish, because we get to think about nothing for hours. It's awesome.
And so I would really, it felt like minutes, and it sometimes felt like 10 minutes. And it's good. I call it the power of pause. So when you ask a question or when you're just being with him and he's sharing, it's okay for there to be nothing for a minute or two or three. For them to be, because usually the husband will start talking more. Mm-hmm. Now, if you start being, I want to say this, if you start being vulnerable, I have the wife, like me, I start being vulnerable about something that God's doing in me. One of the most powerful ways to open up a conversation with your husband is to start sharing what God is doing in you. Not what needs to be fixed in him, what God needs to fix in him, what God needs to fix in the marriage. No, what is God doing in you? And so when God started to show me where control was coming from in my life, and that it came from when I was a little kid, and I shared with Mike how God showed me where control came in and how much I was controlling him and controlling our life and controlling everything. And I began to share really vulnerably with Mike. It was amazing what happened. Now, you might have a husband that starts giving you a list of things, of ways you're being controlling, or starts giving you a list of things. What I find that works really well is just listen, whether you saw it that way or not. Mm-hmm. This is how you begin to open up intimacy and vulnerability, because you could have seen something completely different than I could have seen it. Just like 5 people can see the same car accident and see completely different views of the accident.
Well, and by the way, you didn't say, "Oh, sorry, you're feeling that way," which is a lame apology.
Or I didn't start getting defensive and offended, and inside I was kind of like, "Ooh, this hurts right now. Wow." But he's being vulnerable right now. Yeah. He's opening up right now, and if I start getting defensive and getting offended, it's going to break all intimacy.
Yeah. I feel like I was being mean there, saying lame apology.
You were being mean.
I was, sorry. I meant to say like, oh, I'm sorry, because what that is, you're deflecting your apology. You're putting it back on the other person.
Yes,
versus,
I'm sorry that you're feeling that way.
Yeah, versus saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I made you feel X, or I made you feel, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry that I did that. I can see how that could have made you feel that way. Again,
and I apologize. Will you forgive me?
Yes.
That's a true apology.
Because in his eyes, how he felt was the truth. How you're seeing it is your truth. And it's like, okay, whose truth is right here? I mean, you can debate this till the cows come home, but the fact is there's a disconnection, and your desire is to be connected. And the reality is most men were never taught this. We were not taught how to share our emotions and our feelings. And I rarely ever meet a husband that was taught this really well growing up. So most husbands, we walk into marriage and we're like, whew, this is new for me. And if I open up something vulnerable, are you going to use this against me later? Mm. And if you do, guess what? I am never going to share that with you again, because I'm going to go into my vault, as you were talking about, and I'm going to lock that vault down so tight. I ain't letting that thing out, because you're going to use it against me, and I'm not letting you do that. So I will shut down, and I will not allow that conversation to happen again.
This is so good. So if your husband begins to open up, let him talk.
Yeah.
And then ask the question, do you feel like, is that everything? Is that it? And just be with him. Same thing. Now, again, we're speaking a lot to the wife right now because we work with a lot of wives, and we usually see this where, and we were talking about this earlier real quick, babe, I want to go here. You weren't always like this. When you first started dating and you first got married, you would talk for hours. Like you had a lot of emotional intimacy and a lot of physical intimacy probably, right? And sexual intimacy, all these things. And what happened was slowly over time, your baggage started to come out. His baggage started to come out. You guys had kids. He began to maybe work more. You worked more. Whatever the situation might be that happened in your marriage where it slowly started to deteriorate. And then now you have absolutely no emotional intimacy. And so how do you start getting that back? You start being vulnerable. I know it's risky. But again, when you're vulnerable, one of the most powerful ways to do this is start being vulnerable with what God's doing in you and through you, and share that. And then it can start to open up conversations. But the moment that one of you starts getting defensive and offended, it starts to ruin the intimacy between each other. And then usually it starts to a fight, it starts an argument, and right. And so, man, this is a really, really big topic, really big one. But I want you to start paying attention to this and start really creating a safe place for your spouse. Your marriage should be the safest place. And something has come in and destroyed it. Whether it's been infidelity, whether it's been kids, meaning not like you've had kids and you put your marriage on the back burner. I mean, there's so many things that have come in and destroyed your intimacy and destroyed your safe place. And now you want to start building it back little by little by little.
Yes. Every healthy couple, they will be each other's number one customer service department. They will love it. Like, we never want to make our spouse pay a price for sharing something vulnerable. Right? It's key number one. We're going to tie a bow on this, but I love this example because we grew up in Seattle, and Nordstrom's, they're still around. I mean, they're known for the best customer service, hands down, of any department store, probably all store. I mean, they set the gold standard for customer service. And we make this joke that you could literally bring in a used tire to Nordstrom's and they would let you exchange it for a coat. I mean, they probably wouldn't nowadays, but that's literally how good they were. So they developed this like safe place where people, because it's awkward returning stuff. No one wants to do that. But they were so amazing at their customer service that they made lifelong customers, raving fans. And so that's what we want to be for our spouse. And so let's tie a bow on these two.
Well, let's like real quick, because I don't want to leave them with that, because you could walk into a department store and return a shirt and they're like, you've worn this, you can't return this. And you're like, no, I never wore it. I tried it on and it didn't fit. And they're like, no, you wore it, you can't return it. And then you're like, man, I don't ever want to come back to this department store. I'm never coming back here.
Yep.
But we would go back to Nordstrom's over and over and over and over again because of their customer service.
Yeah.
And they just made you feel good.
It was an experience.
They made you feel good.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do in marriage is we want to make each other feel good. We want to be able to give each other the space to really talk through things and give each other the safe place. And I want to end with this because this is such an incredible topic. Go and process your emotions with God. Process your emotions first with God before you go to your husband, or vice versa. Because when we go and process with him, often God will sometimes it will just dissolve and you're like, oh wow, that was totally me. I was in a really bad mood. Okay, God, I'm sorry. And then there's times where after you've processed it with God, your heart is softer, then you can go and share things with your husband. But we really wanted to give you a couple things and a couple questions to really think about to open up intimacy with your husband. And that is like, wow, start sharing with your husband what God's doing in you. And at first, if he doesn't respond right away and doesn't know how to, that's okay. because you guys haven't done it in a really long time and it might be kind of awkward. And so all because things are a little bit awkward doesn't mean that you stop doing it. You want to start being vulnerable over and over and over again until it becomes safe again. And you're providing that safe place for each other to be able to share and not be judged.
All right. We ready to land this plane?
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Those two are really big. Hanging out with healthy marriages, right? You refuse to hang out with unhealthy marriages, and you refuse to neglect emotional intimacy.
All right. So let's do this. If you are listening to this and you're like, you know what? I want to take this to another level. I want resources. What do you have? And so you can look in the show notes. Janelle has some courses for the wife. I have an intensive where I work with the husband directly. And Janelle has a full mentorship path as well for the wife. Called our Wise Wives, and you can go to the link. You can watch the video masterclass. It's free, and you can get more information on exactly how we can support you. So thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll get to the other 3 areas in a future podcast episode.
Yes, because we have 3 more that we want to talk about.
Yeah, there's some meat on this bone, baby. All right. God bless you.